All right, so in this lecture, I'm going to overview the introductory chapter in the Ccl Handbook of Leadership. So here we go, and when I want to start with this. There's a great quote from Thales of Miletus, and he says, the hardest thing is to know yourself. The easiest thing is to give advice to others. And we're going to focus on knowing yourself because that is a very, very difficult thing to do. So let's start with the introduction, and as we do start with the introduction, I want to start with pose this beginning question. How do you develop into a better leader? I mean, we're here because we're trying to learn how to become a better leader or how to develop others. So how do you develop into a better leader? Well, I think they're going to answer these throughout this chapter and throughout the book, but I want you to kind of be thinking that question as you read everything that you read. Now, this video or podcast, depending on which you're listening to or watching, it's the same thing. I'm recording this video and then I'm going to turn it into an audio form, so if you want to listen to it on your iPod or something, you can do that later. But this is to supplement the book. It's not to replace the book. So read the book, then listen or watch this, and it'll help reinforce the basic principles. Okay? So in this chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to review assumptions and models of leadership development, elements of effective leadership development experience, what develops in leader development, how to enhance leader development, and then we'll conclude after we talk about how to move from leader development to leadership development, and those are two very different things. Okay, so assumptions and models of leader development. So their assumptions, the CCL's assumptions, are that there are first many different leadership roles. What that means is simple. It's not just the role at the top. It's not just the CEO who's important, but leadership has to be pervasive throughout the organization. And we'll see that in various ways as we talk about this. Second, there's no one best way to lead. Now, it'd be very simple if there was one best way to lead. If we could say, do X and people will do Y. If you just do this, it's not formulaic. Leadership is an art, it's not a science. Now, there are certain principles that you can use, but people are irrational. They're quirky, they have agendas, they have mixed motives, and you know, you may be dealing with one person and they react one way, and another person and they react a totally different way. So it's an art as much as it is a science, probably more so of an art than a science. Leaders can become better leaders with effort. That's why we're here, that's what we're doing. So if you do certain things, you can hopefully become a better leader. There's an old question of whether leaders are born or made, and most of the evidence seems to show that they're made. Perhaps 30% is innate, and then the balance is made. I like the way Peter Drucker answered it. He said, no, they're grown. It's an organic process. Okay, so let's talk about the assumptions and models of leader development. There's a two-part model, and it deals with assessment, challenge, and support, ACS. You're going to need to remember that. Assessment, challenge, and support. And as you look into assessment, challenge, and support, those three things, first you need to assess, in a classroom. I mean, we have a test to see if you actually learn things. And in challenge, there needs to be a certain level of difficulty going into the developmental exercise, and support along the way to help you actually do what you need to do. And so then the second part of the model is once you have assessment, challenge, and support, that leads to a variety of developmental experiences. Now, we couple these variety of developmental experiences, again supported by ACS, and an ability to learn. Without the ability to learn, we don't really have this leadership context here. We couple that, and that goes into leader development. That's what is necessary. So there's the two steps. But let's talk about assessment and challenge and support, okay? This leads to models of leader development. Notice we said leader, not leadership. There's a difference. We're talking about how the individual leader develops, not the organization. And too often when we think about leadership development, we're thinking about something different or leader development, we're thinking about something different. Now, developmental experiences are most effective when all three elements, that is assessment, challenge, and support, you'll hear this again and again, are present. We need to have all three. Okay? Now, when we're talking about leader or leadership development, we usually think of these three kind of things: leading oneself, leading others, and leading the organization. More often than not, we think about others and the organization when we think about leadership, but we really need to start with leading oneself. When we talk about leading oneself, we're dealing with self-awareness, for example. How do you come off to others? How are they perceiving you? Are you resonant with them, or are you, hitting a sharp note? The ability to balance between conflicting demands. You'll be juggling a lot. That's part of management. Ability to learn, and that's going to be critical. If you can't learn, you're going to be stuck wherever you are. And then leadership values. These are all component parts of leading oneself. Then when you're dealing with leading others, you're talking about the ability to maintain relationships. Now, there are certain words that I'm going to highlight and focus on. Relationships is one of them. Leadership is a relationship. Now, notice the commonality between those two words. Any word that has the suffix ship, S-H-I-P, is in relationship with whatever you're talking about. So citizenship, relationship between the people and the state. Worship, which is really worthship, and it's changed slightly into worthship. So you're talking about the relationship between you and God and valuing Him, or whatever it is that you're worshiping. It doesn't even have to be God. It could be an idol. So relationship is a component part of leadership. The ability to build effective work groups is going to be important. Communication is important. The ability to develop others. And when we say develop others, that's another word that I want to focus on. Develop. Because what you're trying to do is not become the leader of more followers than other people. You're trying to become a leader that develops other leaders to grow them. And as you grow them, you grow as well. And in leading the organization, of course, management skills, planning, leading, organizing, and controlling are important. The ability to think and act strategically is also important. That's thinking, whole to part, looking at your whole organization, or on a smaller scale, your whole department, and see what they need, or thinking long term into the distance, thinking creatively, and the ability to initiate change. Another word I want to focus on, change. If you are not changing, there's no need for leadership. As you change, you need leadership. To do what you did yesterday, you don't need leadership. You know how to do that. But to go from here to there, whatever the there is that you're trying to move people to, you need leadership. Okay, enhancing leadership development. How do you enhance it? Well, you create rich developmental experiences. Now, developmental, that means you're growing, that organic process. Enhancing the ability to learn. Aligning leader development with the context. And here, another two words that you want to focus on. Alignment is very important. It's different than organizing. When you think about organizing, you're thinking about, here's the hierarchy, and you're moving this person to that box or whatever. Alignment's a little different. Alignment is looking at, here's the mission, here's the people, and here are the jobs that need to be done, and getting them all lined up. Like looking at an azimuth on a compass, getting everybody lined up. That's alignment. That's important. And the context that you're in is very important, because you can't separate the leader and the follower and just isolate those parts. They're in a particular context, and in a different context they may act differently. So these are key kind of words that you want to be focused on. Okay, from leader development to leadership development, they have this great quote here in the introductory chapter. We define leadership development as the expansion of a collective's, and let's talk about the collective's capacity to produce direction, alignment, and commitment. DAC, and you're going to see DAC again and again. Direction is different than planning. Planning, you get together in a back room somewhere and you come out with a plan and you roll it out to people and go, this is what we're going to do. And they go, but we don't really want to do it that way. And then there's all kind of bad blood. Direction's different. Direction is, guys, we got to go over there. Now, how do we do this? Let's focus on that's where we're going. Alignment is getting them all on the same page. And then commitment is, because they're all on the same page and they have some say in the matter, they become more committed to it. So that is the core of leadership. Now let's talk about the word collective, because collective is important. That is that you're dealing with a whole organization, not just a bunch of smart people in a back room somewhere. And when you focus on all as opposed to just the smart guys in the C-suite, you have a very different experience. Okay, so that is the first introductory chapter, and what I'm going to do is try to keep these lecturettes into somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. More than likely they'll be about 10 minutes. This one ran a little over 9 minutes, and thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next lecture.